fucking easy all day, baby. Let's go.
Hey guys, so if you follow me on social media, you know that about 10 days ago I had a minor pec tweak while I was benching. Pretty light set of benches, 155 kilos I think, which is something like under 80% for me. So it's kind of a freak thing. I didn't see it coming. I wasn't doing anything stupid, and it was very, very minor. Like, I want to stress that. It was not a major injury at all. But I'm trying to play it smart, trying not to overdo things this prep, so I immediately stopped my training. Or that particular workout. I took a couple days off, and then I slowly started to work back into it. That was really, really successful, and now I'm back 100% 10 days later, ready to get right back, pick up right exactly where I left off. So I haven't lost any training time, and it really worked out very successfully for me. In the past, when I've had little tweaks like this, I haven't done that, right? Like I've been trying to be too aggressive, try to come back too quickly, try to pretend like it didn't happen, and as a result, I really derailed my training for a much longer time. I think that when you're dealing with injuries, no matter what, it's very difficult to find that balance between doing too much mentally and physically, and not doing enough, because you can't just rest forever and expect your body to heal itself. At some point, you're going to need to start getting back in the gym, start returning to regular movement. And for some people, including myself, that can be really, really mentally intimidating. So on the one hand, you know, you're injured and you feel vulnerable because you can't train the way you want to. And so you really, really want to get back in the gym. But on the other hand, you're worried about hurting yourself again. So figuring that out is the secret to being able to deal with injuries in the long term. Now, the title of this video is How to Heal Any Injury Overnight. That's a reference to an article I wrote for Elitefts last year. I think it's a really great article. I highly suggest you guys check it out. It is an article about mental strategies that you can use while you are injured to deal with kind of the consequences of that, right? Feeling like you can't train, feeling down on yourself, whatever the case may be. This video is going to be about after you're healed, what strategies can you use to get back in the gym and start training productively without worrying about re-injuring yourself for the future. Now, instead of just sitting here and talking to you, I'm going to show some training clips from my past week of training so you can see kind of more or less what I was doing for my squats and deadlifts while I was rehabbing this pec, because I don't stop training altogether. All right, let's get started. So my first go-to strategy is to use really, really high reps when you're rehabbing an injury. When I say high reps, I don't mean like 8 to 12. I mean like 20 or 30 or 50. Here's the reason for that. When you're starting out rehabbing, right, you're getting underweight, and at first maybe let's say you do the bar, and the bar, you can't even feel it, right? But then you go up just a little bit, you go up to maybe 95 pounds, and all of a sudden you can feel that muscle that you injured. And your brain's like, oh shit, is that okay? And that can be really, it can produce a lot of anxiety. So instead what you do is stick with super high reps, right? So let's say you do the bar for a set of 50. And then you go up, set of 50 is freaking hard. So you go up maybe 10 pounds, you go up to 55 pounds. You do that for a set of 30. By doing this, you just continue to go and go and go. By the time you've gotten to 95 pounds, you've probably done close to, 150 reps? And you've progressed so slowly that A, you've built up that confidence that you need to know, oh, okay, well, I just did 85 pounds for 20 reps. Like 95 pounds is not going to hurt me. And so you have that mental confidence. You also get a lot more work in without pushing super heavy weight. So this can be a really effective way of rehabbing and regaining your strength as well, at least in the very beginning stages. So it's really useful from both perspectives. I find it's more mentally useful, especially if you have a number that, like, let's say you injured yourself with 300 pounds, and once you get past 275, you really start to freak out. This is where it's really helpful. You can do 225 for a set of 15, and then you can do, say, 245 for a set of 12, and really, really creep up on it. And obviously, you don't have to stick with those super, super high rep sets forever. As you get more confident, you can work down lower and lower and lower in the number of reps you use. The second strategy that I really like is using different variations of the movement that you injured yourself on to rehab that muscle and gain a lot of confidence. So here's an example from when I was prepping for the US Open in 2017, right? About 6 weeks out, I hurt my pec, similar to what I did this past week, but a lot worse, and to the point where I couldn't bench at all. But I could do light incline bench and it didn't hurt at all, which was very strange to me. But since I hadn't hurt myself on incline, there was none of that mental anxiety around incline for me. And so I'm sure that contributed to the fact that, hey, I think I can do this without any risk. So I slowly work up on incline to the point where I'm doing an incline press with 275 pounds for reps, which for me is pretty good because my bench is shitty. And then when I finally go back to the bench press, even though it's only 2 weeks out of the meet at this point, I've kept my strength up because I've been doing that incline, which for me carries over really, really well to the flat bench. And B, I have a lot of mental confidence because I know, hey, if I can do 275 on incline, I can definitely do 275 on flat bench without any issues. So you can use that strategy for any exercise where you hurt yourself, and you can also be really progressive with it, right? So let's say that you start out with a machine. You do a machine bench press, and then you go to dumbbells, and then you go to barbell incline. And that way you can continue to build that strength up, you can continue to build that mental confidence up, and honestly, in the long run, you'll probably be better off for having that having that physical variety in your training routine, right? Your muscles are going to continue to respond to these new stimulus. Now, I don't suggest you make that a part of your regular powerlifting routine. It's still not going to be as good as training competition lifts, but you got to work with what you got, right? If you cannot do a regular bench press or a regular squat or regular deadlift confidently and at your best, at your physical best and mental best, just do a variation that you can train at your best. That's better than half-assing something. The final variation that I really like the final strategy that I really like is the use of tempo reps. Because for me, right, I start to worry about hurting myself on the negative, not on the eccentric. Once I've lowered the weight under control and started to raise it up a little bit, I know I can handle it, right? If something's going to happen, it's going to happen when your muscle's in that most stretched, most vulnerable position. So by using tempo reps, you can remain in complete control of the entire range of motion and lowering the weight very, very slowly. It's going to decrease the risk of injury. B, it's been shown in research to increase the healing rate or be a more effective way of healing than just concentric exercise. And C, is going to give you a lot more of that mental confidence because you're controlling the weight all the way down. So I like to use fairly slow tempo, probably a 3-second negative on a bench press, maybe even a 4 or 5 second negative on a squat where the range of motion is greater. Controlling it all the way down, not pausing in the bottom position, right? And then just smoothly returning up. That's the key, I think, is that reversal. You don't want to be, when you're rehabbing and you're kind of worried about it, you don't want to be explosive because moving quickly like that, it can, it's probably going to increase your risk of injury a little bit. And B, if for me at least, it can be a big mindfuck trying to be explosive when I'm rehabbing something. So instead, you focus on smoothness. You focus on lowering the weight slowly and under control, and then raising the weight at that exact same rate. And that, for me, is a really, really productive way of training, and it's a really, really productive way of rehabbing any injury that I kind of come across. Now, the one last thing that I think is worth mentioning, this is kind of in that phase before you're ready to return to lifts that are similar to how you hurt yourself, but you think you're past the point where just you need straight up rest. Try and find some type of movement where you can put your body in a position where you're just starting to approach that pain zone. And pain isn't even the right word, maybe discomfort zone, right? That last little bit where you start to think, I can start to feel it and I'm a little bit anxious about it. See what types of creative movements you can do to put yourself in that position. So for example, when I'm doing, for rehabbing my pec, my go-to movement for that, it's a sort of dumbbell fly where instead of lowering the weight out to my side, I start lowering it to my side and then I curve it back behind my head, almost like the motion that a bird does with its wings, right? So it's a really arced range of motion, super lightweight, and I'm holding the weight with an open hand so that I can't squeeze really hard. That gets a great stretch on my pec, and it forces me to focus on that muscle. So there's 3 ways that you can start to rehab, plus a little extra bonus tip. I think these are really, really useful for me mentally, more so than physically. Honestly, a lot of injury can just be overcome if you don't have these mental hangups. But I do, and I think a lot of other people do. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them below, but I am writing a bunch of articles on this for Elite FTS, so please hang on. I'll link those when they're out, and you can get some additional information that way. Till next time, take it easy.